Welcome to the International Conference on Collective Intelligence, ICCI. I'm Jamin Shively. What is collective intelligence? Collective intelligence is a higher form of intelligence than normal human intelligence, and it is a higher form of intelligence that emerges when a group or community of people come together to intentionally co-create things that they could not create individually. And there are lots of examples from history, including the famous Lockheed Martin Skunk Works programs, the Apollo programs, and then more recently with the internet and communications technologies, we have examples such as Wikipedia, Linux, the Polymath project, where they're pushing the envelope on the whole field of mathematics in many different places, areas. And then there are some implementations of collective intelligence that are focused on either a specific problem or a domain of problems. So for example, you have MIT's Climate Collab project. And then you have the Azimuth Forum, Azimuth project, focusing on saving the planet as a whole. And one fascinating example of collective intelligence is Google. And I see that as kind of a confluence or a mashup of two streams of collective intelligence. On the one hand, you have thousands of programmers coding, creating the entire code base that is Google. But that would be meaningless were it not for the existence of the entire World Wide Web, the entire internet, and all the content from the hundreds of millions of folks who have posted content to the internet. And the joining together of those two, the mashing up of those two, being the results that we get when we do a Google search, which is just absolutely magical. That is collective intelligence. And that is an amazing form of, I mean, all of Wikipedia is a mere subset of this whole stream. And of course, you know, anyway, it's just a fascinating example of collective intelligence is Google. Now, ICCI focuses on extracting the maximum amount of learning and experience from all these different implementations of collective intelligence. However, its main focus, and what I'm so excited about, is not so much where collective intelligence has been, but where collective intelligence is going. And collective intelligence is taking us to a whole other world. Given the potential of collective intelligence and given the critical mass of knowledge and experience that we have accumulated as a species on collective intelligence, we're now at a point where it is very close to taking off exponentially. And given the vast resources that we have on planet Earth, intellectual resources, natural resources, technological resources, infrastructure, it seems kind of obvious to me that we have tremendous flexibility in terms of the course that we could take as a planet, as a species, from this point forward. We've been following somewhat of a default course, but our main hypothesis that we have is that this exponentially growing collective intelligence will be able to essentially chart a new course, not just, oh, in theory, it'd be great if we went off in this direction, but actually build out all of the solutions necessary to make that happen, including the publicity solutions, marketing solutions, financial solutions, and we'll talk about some examples of these as we go along. But that is the idea, is that such a powerful form of intelligence will essentially be able to orchestrate a change of course for humanity and for our planet. And to the degree that all of the world's problems, if not solved outright, will at a minimum be greatly mitigated. And one can only imagine a virtuous cycle beginning to take off. So a problem that at first was only mitigated trends towards solution as collective intelligence grows in magnitude. We're talking about orders of magnitude smarter than any terrestrial form of intelligence witnessed so far on planet Earth, because collective intelligence contemplates not only vastly expanding human-based collective intelligence, but also mashing that up with artificial intelligence and, in fact, technology generally. So the big question then is, how will collective intelligence, how will it go about solving these major world problems? And the short answer is to that question, to how, is holistically, by looking at all of the world's problem as a whole, in fact, looking at the entire world as a whole, so that any solution that's contemplated or proposed or under discussion would be able to be modeled in a holistic context, meaning that we would look at the solution and we'd say, okay, what are the intended consequences of this solution? Okay, those are these. Great. What are the unintended consequences of this solution? Well, all of these. And some of them may well be positive unintended consequences, but there are also many negative unintended consequences often. And the point is that all of these consequences, intended, unintended, positive, negative, neutral, what have you, all of these consequences need to be understood, documented, made measurable, measured, recorded, and so that a holistic model of this solution and all of its impacts can be incorporated into a larger model, which we refer to as a global holistic model, a computer model of the entire world and all of its people and economies and ecosystems and species and what have you, everything modeled to the limits of our technological abilities, which are constantly growing for many reasons. But that is part of the big idea. Global holistic modeling of all solutions will give us an ability to essentially get holistic metrics relative to the true quality of a given solution. Let me bring it down to earth for a moment with an actual, tangible, real world example. So I'm talking about all these solutions in the abstract. Solutions in reality, they could be strategies, and the Hungerless Games being a notable one that we'll talk about a little later. They could be platforms, they could be programs. So one program that we're piloting in the real world today is the program Community Cafes, led by my brother, Eric Miller. And the community cafes have the explicit focus of eradicating world hunger, or playing a key role in eradicating world hunger. The basic idea is they feed nutritious foods to anyone who comes, anyone who wants them, including entire communities, for free, 3 meals a day. And part of the holistic focus of a community cafe in terms of all of its impacts, well, it's going to have tremendous impacts on the environment through the sourcing of food. Well, it turns out that the community cafes have as a goal to source as much as possible from what we call regenerative agricultural networks. These are agricultural networks which have a net regenerative impact on ecology, on ecosystems, as opposed to a net negative impact, which most agricultural, modern, quote unquote, modern agricultural practices have. In fact, holistic land management, pioneered by Alan Savory and the Savory Institute, is a great example of this, where through holistic land management, you can actually reverse desertification. Desertification being the process by which healthy ecosystems go to desert. That process can actually be reversed through holistic land management. And a major component of that is agriculture. So we provide links to that below. So that's an example of how the community cafes, through their sourcing policies, can affect transformation in other spheres, including agriculture. And and in fact, one other amazing thing about the community cafe program is that the community cafes become the center or the hub of a much larger concept, which is that of a compassionate community. So the heart of a compassionate community is ensuring that everyone in that community is well nourished, always. So the community cafes become a catalyst for much greater transformation. Anyway, that's about all the time we have on this segment, but please keep watching and rooting down, and there's a lot more good material on the ICCI's website, ichiban.org, as well as other sites that we point to from there. Thank you so much for watching.